And here we are on another episode of the Spoiler Room, and I have a Spoiler Room crew here tonight as we are going to talk. Our main topic is going to be Tremors, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary. Yes, thank you for making me feel even older. Now, tonight in the Spoiler Crew, we have back in the Spoiler Room Mr. Cole Meredith. Cole, how are you doing, sir?
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Glad to have you here on this special episode. And as always, the BFD, Mr. Glenn Bittner. Hello, sir.
Hello, hello, hello.
Great to have you. And our Spoiler Room regular, Paul, is in his house. Paul, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good. I like the new bow tie and the look there.
Thank you.
The black and red. That's pretty spiffy. I always feel underdressed when you show up. Speaking of underdressed.
Nobody told me about the dress code.
I hate your damn standards anymore.
We know that voice there is Mr. Scott Davis joining us in the Spoiler Room. Hello, Scott.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And so before, though, we get to Tremors, I want to do a couple headlines that have peaked here and made everybody crazy on the internet. So I want to get your thoughts on it. First off, the Fantastic Four trailer, which actually I was a guest on the podcast, the Sci-Fi Geeks Club podcast on the the Galactic Netcast network. Brad does that one, and so go over there and check them out if you haven't yet. But we were just talking about the Fantastic Four trailer. I just want to get your guys' kind of feelings about this film that everybody hated before they ever even saw a picture of it. Glenn, Fantastic Four trailer. Did this teaser trailer at all make you curious at watching it?
No.
No?
No, not really, not at all. It did nothing for me. I mean, part of that is I've never really been a huge Fantastic Four fan to begin with. Mm-hmm. And I still have the bitter taste of the previous incarnations they have seen on film. So, did I say bitter?
I think you're a little bitter about that. You mean the Jessica Alba, everybody wishes she was an Invisible Girl but still have her clothes off versions?
Yes.
Ah, yes, those versions.
You know, the only good thing to come out of those movies is we got a Captain America out of it.
Yes. That is true. This is very true. Paul, what about you? Did this teaser trailer make you curious at seeing it?
Honestly, you couldn't tell that it was a Fantastic Four trailer because there wasn't hardly anything Fantastic Four about it. When you look at the 2005 trailer for that movie, there were the catchphrases, there was the powers and all of that stuff. In this trailer, you didn't see any of that, so it looked like they were trying to be like the Age of Ultron type of thing where this is going to be a dark movie, it's going to be really exciting. But the coolest thing about it was the fact that the release date was 8/7/15 because you can add 8/7 and get 15. That was the coolest thing.
This is like the second. This is the second mathematical thing about it because Mark brought up something interesting about a number in there. In the trailer. I don't know if you want to say that now or if you want to wait until we have.
I'll bring it up in a minute.
Say now.
I'll bring it up in a minute. Scott, what was your reaction to this trailer, though, on a whole? Did it make you at all curious to see it?
Well, here's the thing. I try not to take these things too personally because, let's go back for the young kids in the audience and such. First of all, there's going to be a lot of teenagers and everything that say like it's the end of the world if the movie's not good because you're a fucking teenager. Everything's the damn end of the world. But you know it's when like back when we'd see this stuff come out like in like say like the 90s or something like that or even like maybe just like early 2000s and even. It really was because we didn't have a Marvel Pictures, which of course this is not done by. It's done. 20th Century Fox owns it, but so we didn't know that when a movie was going to come out, we thought that was it. Like when Joel Schumacher screwed up Batman for Batman and Robin, we thought that crap, he sucks forever now. We didn't know. when Spider-Man 3, well, no, actually, because I don't like those new ones either, so I'm not even going to use that example. But like when a superhero movie when they would just like misfire it and mishandle it, we got so mad because we thought that's it, that's their shot. We didn't know that they were going to start rebooting every damn thing every 10 years, okay? And that's what this is. It's like, does this look interesting to me? Not at all. It looks bland. It looks depressing. It looks like it looked like the Man of Steel trailer, and I hated Man of Steel. I thought it was joyless. I thought it was drab. And of course, Fantastic Four to me, even in the 2005 and 2007 movies, which are not good, even in those movies, that they're at least bright and colorful, and yet they have like kind of the comic book whimsy and stuff. And this one doesn't have that at all. But I don't have to act like it's like they've just pierced my heart, because I'm like, yeah, it'll suck. You know what? And then in like 2023 they'll do another one. So I'm fine with that. Okay.
Or it'll go back to Marvel.
Or it'll probably go back to Marvel. Exactly.
Cole, what about you? Fantastic Four make you want to see it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything everybody said, but I don't know. It was a serviceable trailer. They had to do with what they had to do. I mean, they had to work with some footage and put together something that looked somewhat epic and something that would let you know it's not the previous movies, and had to make it a little darker and more dismal because of the times. But who knows what the movie's going to be? I mean, I couldn't tell from that trailer what the actual movie's going to be. I thought it was a serviceable trailer. I mean, it was a product. I'm definitely going to see the movie on the off chance it's good, but I don't know anything about the project really. But the trailer was fine. It managed to make stuff look epic, and there was some cool shots in there. I don't know. I have to see the movie.
Someone mentioned on a forum that it was a generic trailer, and they actually played the trailer against the audio of the Interstellar trailer, and it actually worked pretty good. But I will say that most superhero trailers, in all honesty, are a bit generic. They show very similar things to it, and so I posted that, and no one responded, so I don't know if I made someone upset or what. Me personally, I think I'm the only one in the universe that I liked this teaser trailer. It made me want to see the Fantastic Four. I mean, an elastic guy is always hard to sell in real, showing it as a real life type of situation. Just like the Green Lantern, I never thought would translate well into real life because of the kind of jokey things that he made out with his ring that look great in a comic because it's a comic book. You can buy into a little bit more exaggerated things versus a movie. So, I mean, for me, I took it as a movie, and it made me interested. It looks better than what I thought it would look like, and if they do a darker tone, that's great, but I'm a sick person like that. I like a little bit darker movies, and for me, if they take it in that dark direction and do it well, I like the director. The guy who did this did Chronicle, and I love Chronicle. Chronicle ended up being probably my favorite found footage film because he actually did something different with it, and it's actually directed well. So, he's got that, and he's even got Michael B. Jordan back, who was in Chronicle, who's now in this. So, I have hopes for it. My problem is with the internet, and everybody has an opinion. Obviously, we have this show where we have lots of opinions. But my problem is that people, it's just like the Batman versus Superman thing. People have already put the nail in the coffin before they even seen the movie. They go it by the trailers, they go it by the leaked stuff, they go it by all this little instant gratification that this world suddenly needs when we, at the time the Tremors came out, had to get our shit from a Cinema Fantastique and a magazine that was out of print, and the information in there was already old by the time we got it. Yet we still loved it. We waited for that next Starlog issue to come out because that's how we got it.
Well, it's not Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
And my problem with the Fantastic Four is people were crapping on this film before they even saw one shot, and then when they did see a screenshot of the supposed Doctor Doom character, everybody crapped on it some more, and I'm like, people already have a set level of what this film's going to be. So if you don't come out with something that's going to completely wow them, they're going to complain. It's not going to matter. Just like Batman versus Superman. If Batman versus Superman doesn't give every person in the audience a nerdgasm twice, people are going to complain that it sucks, even if it doesn't suck. But they expect it to suck, so that immediately they'll look for the negative.
I agree, and I think that I don't even think it necessarily has to be a thing about when I was a kid we did this, but it was a thing like that. But I agree, even though I agree with that, and I feel that nostalgia and everything, it is different today. I hate the slow rollout of films where we have a film still, we have that. Because now it's not like you just release a picture from something and people absorb it and they take it as part of the whole. They judge it immediately, and I was doing it too. I did it too, because every little bit about Fantastic Four that would come out. Now, I think that it is perfectly valid to come out there and say, okay, I'm going to look at this and and I can form an opinion about it. And I would see the early stuff from Fantastic Four and say, this sounds really bad. This sounds like the exact wrong way to go. But then, like I said, you got the people where everything is the end of the world and everything is extreme, where they're always saying, like, if it's not enough to say, this doesn't bode well. This looks like a bad idea. They'd say, oh, it's terrible. How dare they? I want to burn down their house. Guys, chill out. I looked at everything and I said, you know what? This is not good. This does not look like it's for me. I think it's a really poor decision to go. I don't think it's in the spirit of the books. I could look at this trailer and say it doesn't make me really give me glad all over or anything like that. But honestly, I haven't seen the movie either. The movie might turn out to be great. It might turn out to be terrible. And yeah, if it turns out to be terrible, I'll make a judgment. Of course you can make a judgment. Sure. But to get so overly into it that it becomes almost like a religious crusade, the way people do about every frickin' thing, I don't like it either.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So I think the jury's out. We'll still have to wait and see more of I'm sure you'll start to get more footage and stuff that's being leaked out about it, because it comes out in August. So, and just as an Easter egg, though, there is a number in about 45 seconds in that was pointed out to me on a forum. Someone said, hey, just take a look at that number that's on the screen, and if you have the really high def version, you can put it in. It's an IP address, and it takes you to a Wikipedia entry of the land that is ruled by Dr. Doom. So I thought that attention to detail was kind of cool. It shows they're trying to take a little care with the film anyway. I thought it was a neat little Easter egg within there. And the map on the Wikipedia matched the map on the graphic, the special effect they had of the screen she was looking at. So
it blew my mind.
That does, So that gives me a little hope of, okay, they're giving at least attention to detail. And it could be interesting. It's just that a lot of people put in these preconceived notions, and I'm guilty of it myself. Terminator Genesis may wow me, but nothing from that trailer has wowed me so far. But this one has me interested, considering how many people were trashing just a few stills that came from the film. I thought this looked better than what those stills implied, so we'll have to see. And then the second article... Oh, sure. Go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to add, but I don't blame people for that sort of thing, because, as a comic book lover, I know that, growing up, you read comic books and you have this vision of what that character is, what that story should be. And then when you go to the movie, you expect to at least see the first time they go through the movie that they follow that vision of your head. And if it doesn't, it does get irritating. And then this one, of course, yes, this is their second time doing third time, yep. The first one was really ridiculous.
Corman, represent.
And so I think people are kind of backlashing, saying, we still haven't gotten the one that we wanted in our, but it's going to be impossible to get the one in your head, because it's nostalgia. How do you beat nostalgia?
Well, especially
Exactly.
with the Marvel fan base,
Yeah.
that is so
But
rabid.
but movies are like comic books anymore with the reboot things. I mean, I remember when they first started doing, I complained, and I did complain when they did it with Spider-Man because they did it for a really shitty reason,
Yeah,
you know. And I complained about that. In a sense, I don't mind it because comic books do that all the freaking time.
yeah.
I
In fact,
mean,
there, in fact,
DC revamped their entire lineup 2 years ago. Marvel's going to revamp their entire lineup
yep.
this year. And you
I,
know what? This will absolutely stick for a couple years, and then they'll do it again.
And people complain about that. They complain about those reboots just as much
I
as they
I
complain about
complain
these movies.
I
yeah.
complain about them because they're really poorly written, but that's just
And,
me.
and that leads us right into the second headline we're going to talk about just real quick here. The Ghostbusters film that'll be coming out. That, for all rights, I believe is going to be a reboot, though they haven't been calling it that. Um, but yeah, that's going to be an all-female cast this time with the Ghostbusters, and they've got Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy already signed for sure. And then they have two more, and Hollywood Reporter just announced this. They've got who else? Oh, Leslie Jones is the other, and Kate McKinnon, and they're from Saturday Night Live. So they've got an all-female cast to do the Ghostbusters, and supposedly, if from what I read, they're not exactly selling it as a reboot, but it is a reboot, really, is what it is with the cast. So, not much more outside of the cast. What do you think? All female cast of Ghostbusters. I'm interested, though I'm not sure about these picks that they chose. Cole, what do you think?
Man, again, this is just a project that's it's in its earliest stages. I love
Mhm.
Kristen Wiig. I mean, one of the best movies of this last year was The Skeleton Twins, just a blowaway movie, and she was great in that. Melissa McCarthy is funny. I don't know. I don't know the other two ladies as well. I looked into it a little bit after I read the article. They've got some funny sketches. I don't know. I have to see the movie, man. I can't have any strong opinions about it because they were going to do Ghostbusters anyway, a new one
Mhm.
eventually, and uh, they weren't going to get the original cast, obviously, with Bill Murray's sort of pessimism towards it, and then Harold Ramis passing. So this could be just what's needed. I mean, it really could. This could be awesome. There's no
It's
reason this couldn't just rock completely, but I don't know. I have to see the movie.
Yeah, and according to the article, I guess they are now classifying it as a reboot. Glenn, what about you? I think the script is going to have to be out of the park in order for them to sell this one.
Oh yeah,
What do you think?
absolutely. I mean, it has to be a great script. I mean, just because of. I mean, if we go back and we look at the original Ghostbusters and then what that movie was and what it did, and then the kind of letdown that Ghostbusters 2 was for a lot of people, rebooting it, it's going to be a hard sell. I mean, they're already at a negative because you do have some macho dickweeds that are out there like, well, why do they need to have all women? It's like, well, how is that a fair thing? Because now it's gone the other way. It's all women. Why aren't there any men in this movie? Because that's how some morons are. Um,
Right.
uh, as far as the cast, I think part of the issue I have is I don't know. I'm not sure of the castings. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
that I like vehemently dislike any of the people. It's just I think Melissa McCarthy and I think more kind of a goofball, physical, kind of comedy type thing,
Mm.
and that's not how I see Ghostbusters. I think that was part of the problem with that I had with the second Ghostbusters. They kind of went in that more. It went a little more goofy. Um,
The second one was more family friendly,
yes,
almost
and
kind
family
of, you know.
friendly, but I don't know. I mean, I have no problem with it being an all-female cast. I'm not. I'm
No.
not 100% behind the castings.
Right.
I mean, I like Kristen Wiig, but the other two I don't really know that well. so I can't make a really informed decision on them. But I don't know. I'll wait and see. But this is, I don't have high expectations or high hopes. That way, I mean, if it's good, great, and I'm surprised, and we get a good movie out of it. But I'm not going to be, sitting there holding my breath and crossing my fingers and getting all excited when the day comes, because I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with it.
It's a good point. What about you, Paul?
I'm a big fan of Kristen Wiig, and also there is going to be, I heard Cecily Strong, also from Saturday Night Live, in there, and I love their characters on Saturday Night Live, so I'm excited about it. I'm optimistic about the movie. But that said, like I said before, I have an opinion of what Ghostbusters is going to be, and unless they do lots of tie-ins back to the original movies, it's not going to be Ghostbusters to me. Remember that old cartoon that used to be like Ghostbusters, and then they had the real Ghostbusters, and yeah, to me it might be like that, where you get a weird car and a gorilla, which isn't Ghostbusters to me.
Oh, dude, if they put a gorilla in this movie, I'm there. Are you kidding me?
That'll be the Harold Ramis character.
It drives the car even better.
Nice.
An old model A or T or whatever it is.
See, and that was never really Ghostbusters to me, and it was.
No.
Well, I think wasn't that a show from the? I think wasn't the Filmation thing? Wasn't that like a live action show from the '70s?
Something like that, yeah, or something like
that.
Yeah,
when Ghostbusters came out, they said, "Hey, we own the name Ghostbusters.
Exactly.
Let's do a cartoon and mess with kids' minds." And I remember we all like tuned in and on after school afternoons, and were like, "Ghostbuster, what the hell is this?"
Exactly.
We didn't know the show from the '70s.
Yeah, and to do the rooster for the cartoon. Scott, what about you? Thoughts real quick on this casting?
I am all for an all-female Ghostbusters. I think that's a great idea. And understand, when we're talking about things, we are talking about how this is going to resonate with us, the people who are old enough to have seen the original in the theater. I mean,
yeah.
We're old.
Mm-hmm.
We're out of the frickin' demo, guys. We really are.
I know.
What is it? What is it? Henry Rollins says, as soon as you turn 40, all they're trying to sell you is life insurance, a hole in the ground, heavy duty medication, and the best of Sting.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's right, but I mean, like, so it's not really gonna be how it is for everybody else who they're marketing it to. It's how it is for us in our little bubble here. But having said that, I'm all for an all-female Ghostbusters. I think it's great. I think there's a lot of hilarious women out there. Having said that, I'm not excited. I cannot speak about the two that they just announced from the SNL cast because I don't watch Saturday Night Live these days. No matter how many talented people they have on there, I don't typically see their talent until after they leave the show because the show typically has like one or two good sketches per hour and a half, and the rest of it actually is so terrible it usually makes me angry. So for my own sanity, I don't watch the show anymore.
Sure.
But yeah, so I can't speak on them. They might be great for all I know.
Right.
I personally am not a fan of Kristen Wiig or Melissa McCarthy. I have not seen Skeleton Twins yet. I wanted to see it, but I haven't liked Kristen Wiig. I hated Bridesmaids. Hated it. I thought it wasn't Bridesmaids. It was Kristen Wiig complains about her life for 2 hours, and I was sick of it. And even though I enjoyed the movie The Heat, I mostly enjoyed it because of Sandra Bullock. I didn't really. I don't like Melissa McCarthy. I do. I think. Was it you, Glenn, that said you kind of consider that you kind of picture more of a physical comedy and stuff? Yeah, I'm on board with that. That's what I see. There's a movie she has coming out actually from the same director this summer, which might be great for all I know. I haven't seen anything on it, called Spy. And on the cover, she's sitting there like on the ground flailing around like an idiot while everybody else is standing still. I'm like, Yeah, so the idea of an all-female Ghostbusters is great. I'm not sure about this casting; just doesn't kick it with me. And I don't know who I'd cast in its place. I haven't really thought about it that much. I guess I don't know. I was just thinking off the top of my head. I don't know. I like Gillian Jacobs. She's good. If they could put Maria Bamford in an Egon or Janine type role, that would be good.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't really know. So.
And me too. I'm all for the whole female casting. I think that's awesome that they're going that route with it.
Mhm.
Me too. It's the picks. It's just the uncertainty of the picks. And it's going to really boil down to the script first, and then how well they can deliver this. Because if the script's going to need to be spot on for those who are fans of the original, because that is just such wit in their banter, and the chemistry between those is so solid that even people watch the original Ghostbusters now, and you're like, that is, you're not going to replicate that, and we all know that and accept that, and that's fine. If they come up with a plausible script that, I don't actually want too many winks or nudges to the original.
No, I don't either.
I want them to do fresh. If you're going to do a reboot, if you're going to do fresh, don't do the wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, this is a remake from the original, like they do with some of these. Go completely original. Don't bother, directly referencing something. You can maybe throw in a famous line in there, or if they have Ecto One still, looking similar to the way Ecto One did before, that's great. My only other concern is, while Hollywood likes to go and think they're breaking against the norm, doing these films that have the strong female characters, they don't write it to be not female. You, you know what I mean? I mean, my one concern with this is that they're going to have this all-female cast, and they have a great opportunity to make a strong female-driven film, yet they're going to put in jokes in there that are going to be the "ha-ha, we're female" jokes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like I
That would
don't
be
want that.
unfortunate. That would be unfortunate if they did
Write
that.
the characters like you want them to be, but let's not do the wink. Oh yeah, these are females. You know what I mean? I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't write it and angle the jokes that we do have a female cast. Write it like it would be, regardless of if it's male or female. You don't need to
Someone's
acknowledge the
someone's
fact.
someone's race or gender, and everything like that. That should come through. If it's ever an issue at all, it should come through within their character
Right.
eventually and organically. It should, like, if you had, I mean, Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd. I mean, I know, and I hope they do go far away from the original, but they didn't enter the screen and say, I mean, even though Bill Murray, the first thing you see in that movie is him hitting on some co-ed that's way too young for him. Uh, Even though the idea wasn't, hi, my name is Peter Venkman. Did I mention I have a penis? I mean, it wasn't that. It wasn't
Right.
that. It was that, okay, and this guy, and he's got this, you see this guy, he has angles. Everything
Yes.
is an angle to him. It wasn't about that, so I don't want to see them enter the screen and do things that would actually take a great opportunity and instead of taking the great opportunity to thrust them forward, actually set women back a bit. That's true.
Right,
That's a good
and that's
point.
my concern, is because that's happened before, where we heard, oh, they're going to be doing this with a strong female character, great, and they end up going the standard route. Hey, look, this is a female. You know what I mean? And try to sexualize her or whatever to acknowledge the fact, here we have this. Don't do that. Just give me a good story, and I'm there. As long as the story sounds interesting, it's refreshing and fun. It's got to be fun. I'm there regardless of who it is, as long as that writing's strong. So, speaking of strong writing, which leads us to tonight's topic, which I'd like to talk for a little while. It's celebrating its 25th anniversary. Talk about get off my lawn moments, and it is the original Tremors. Yes, the original Tremors,
Uh,
brought to us by director Ron Underwood.
but
And
Sorry, Mark.
who wants to give the plot synopsis of Tremors? You want me to?
Mark, hold on just 1 second. 1
Yeah,
second,
sure.
sorry, if you don't
Okay.
mind. If you don't mind, this would be a thing to edit out of your show, incidentally.
Royal Crown. Royal Crown.
Does anybody... Hold on, just everybody be quiet 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, I was trying to figure out if I was hearing a faint thing for the last, like, 10, 15 minutes. I was trying to figure out if it was an echo...
Or gas.
Or somebody in the back, or gas, or somebody in the background or something, and I couldn't tell. It's not very severe. It's not very severe, like a few episodes where we couldn't follow.
Sure.
So
No, I hear it. I hear it too, man. I think it's an echo. I think it's a reverb.
Okay.
I don't hear anything.
All right, and like I said, it's not as severe as like we've only had a few episodes where poor Kate had to disconnect, and I felt really bad for her and stuff. But so I don't think it's anything that's going to be terrible. So I just wanted to make sure so that you didn't like listen to the show later and you're like, what the fuck?
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay, sorry.
So tonight we're going to talk about Tremors, celebrating its 25th anniversary, and the story of a group of individuals who live in a very small and remote town are suddenly attacked by strange underground creatures who are picking them off one by one. That's the basic story, folks. This is not a complicated story, but yet Tremors, I think, has really resonated with everyone here, including me. It came out in 1990, and I have the movie memorized. I've watched this film so much. First, let's start off with BFD tonight, Mr. Glenn. When you saw Tremors, what was your reaction to it? Did you like it right away? Did you have to watch it a few times?
Oh, I loved it right away. I absolutely loved it. It was that whole, I've always been a fan of the kind of giant monster movies type of thing. I've been more of a fan of monster, I guess you could kind of call this, a horror film, and that it's a monster, but it's, I've always enjoyed the monsters more than like the slasher type films and stuff like that. The monsters just are more interesting to me, and this is not like one I had really seen before at the time. It was something very different, and just the casting I think was perfect in this one. Kevin Bacon, I liked him in this, and I'm forgetting
Fred Ward.
Fred Ward, who I unfortunately revisited another movie he did, which was Reba Williams, which does not hold up as well as Tremors.
I love
it too,
but it does not hold up as well as Tremors.
No.
God, I'm forgetting everyone's names now. I just had them. Gross.
Michael Gross.
Michael Gross and
yeah.
the singer.
Reba McEntire.
Reba. I'm thinking Bonnie, but I'm like, it's not Bonnie. It's Reba. Yeah. Just the cast and Chen from Big Trouble in China.
Victor Wong.
Yeah.
Victor Wong. Yeah.
So yeah, just great cast, and just the way they all got along, and whoever the female was, I don't know. I don't remember her at all.
Finn Carter.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike her. I just couldn't remember who she was. But yeah, just great cast, great story, just a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And
really
effects for the monsters.
Yes, definitely. We'll touch on that in a little bit here. Cole, what were your reactions when you remember when you first saw this movie?
It was one of those just fun blow-away movies, man. One of the last two great monster movies to not employ computer graphics, What, 1989, 1990? Something like this. It was like The Fly 2 and then Tremors, and not too long after that, CG kind of took over. But I saw it with my dad and best friend, and not only the three of us, but everybody else in the theater just had a riot. And it didn't catch on, if I remember right. This is my perception. It wasn't until home video that I really remember people starting to talk about it and talk about just how completely awesome it was. And we wore that VHS at the local video station out, by the time it was all said and done. It's an extremely quotable movie too. That's the other thing. Type of movie you can take little bits and pieces and have beers with your friends or be on a road trip or something and just it was like Pulp Fiction. You know, you could really just quote it. But really, the biggest strength, and I was so young when I saw it, and this stood out even then, was, as Glenn mentioned, Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward, and they have like a chemistry that every once in a while you get it. You know, it just either it's good casting or it's just sheer luck, like Gibson and Glover in Lethal Weapon. I mean, once in a while you just get that perfect duo that just they fit. The camera likes them together, and they like acting together apparently, and their scenes together carry the film. And it's also a great western. I mean, if you substitute Walter Chang's little whatever convenience store with a saloon, which is where the cowboys would typically hang out, it's really a western. You know, the score by Ernest Truce, I believe his name is.
I think so.
Is very reminiscent of that. The cinematography by, I don't know this gentleman, Alexander Gruzinski, did a phenomenal job filming that landscape, and the scene where they're pole vaulting, all that's wonderfully filmed, and the supporting cast is great. I mean, everybody, the Pogo Girl from Jurassic Park, and Michael Gross, McIntyre, all those cats just came and brought it. And, you know, they don't kill off their entire supporting cast like all movies do. I mean, you know, Aliens and movies set in one location where a small group of people are being bombarded by monsters. Typically, you end up with the handsome guy and the handsome girl, or you know, the cute girl, or just the cute girl who, you know, is typically a virgin. But this was, you know, they didn't pick off their entire supporting cast, and it's just a good movie. I like it. I like this movie.
Paul, you remember when you first saw it?
Yes, and I actually thought it had a kind of a Stephen King vibe about it, where you have these like a group of individuals, and they're all brought together by a strange occurrence, and they're forced together to kind of survive. And basically, the story isn't really about the monsters; it's about people and how they react to the situation. And that's why I really like it, because I'm a big fan of the Stephen King short stories and those kind of novels. And I think this really hits that mark for me.
Definitely. And Scott, what about you when you first saw it?
I didn't see it in the theater. I wanted to, but if I couldn't get my folks or my brother to take me, I didn't go. And by at that age, my brother was really done pretending to care about me. So, and so if I, so I mean, so I didn't get a chance to see it until it hit home video, and I really liked it then. I'm gonna say though, and I think I looked at it, I watched it again last night, late, and you know what? I still enjoy the movie quite a bit, and what gets me is that is how smart the movie is. That it is a throwback to these old '50s movies. I think it absolutely is a throwback to things like Them. If you look at the way that movie Them is set up, this really follows that, and of course that's totally cool in my book. I love Them. Yeah. And you know, I think that how they do clever things, like how they have to get on the roofs, and then how they actually figure out how the things move, and they don't figure it out by having like some like you know, Poindexter with a clipboard saying, my calculations show that they reproduce by asexual, whatever the fuck, and so they just do this thing, and it works. It really works, and I really enjoy it. Having said that, I will say that I think that we really freaked out about it back then because in part because the pickings for monster movies like this, movies that were just fun, good old-fashioned monster movies, were so slim.
Oh, yeah.
They were so slim that we were lucky if we got one or two a year, and if they were good, that only happened once every 5 years. And so I think that, like, for me, when I saw this, I'm like, you know what? I'll take what I can get. Bravo! Back in 1990, that was totally what I was thinking, and now it holds up good. It's not I don't think it's a classic for me, but I think it is entertaining. I do.
Well, I think it stands out too with, like you said, the chemistry, everything you guys said about it. And it was, not many people had tried to do a monster movie, and here you did. You not only just had, it wasn't just your standard monster. This was a unique monster. They put some thought into it. Like you said, I mean, it moved interesting. They came up, and we didn't get a backstory, and yeah, and we didn't have a scientist explain everything. We actually have some common repair guys who use their common sense to try to figure out how this monster moves, and they're pretty accurate with their figuring it out. I mean, you get,
Hmm.
Val and Earl, who are really, I mean, they're handymen who are jack of all trades. They do a little bit of everything. They can build a kiln. They can build, they're really diverse in their skills, but they're hands-on guys. These are not guys. Yet they're able to figure out, oh, this is must be how it is. And I think that's what I love about it is the fact that you have that in here, and you also have, yeah, like you said, the supporting cast, majority of them survive near the end, but most of them have a purpose or do something or give some aspect of something. You have the mom and the daughter. So there's your vulnerability there, because then you have the scientist girl. And then you got Val and Earl, your common guys, for you to really connect with the audience. And then you've got the supporting. You got this cast is funny because if you know any backstory about them, you'll find it hilarious that Michael Gross and Reba McEntire were cast. Let's talk about these characters first, as the paranoid, gun-toting, not crazies, but those type of people that are
Survivalists.
waiting for the government and the apocalypse, when Michael Gross was very outspoken about gun control. He wanted lots of gun control, and he was anti-guns. So
Yeah.
the fact that they cast Michael Gross as a gun-toting, conspiracy theorist. I mean, what do you guys think of these two? I mean, you wouldn't have pictured them in this role, but it works, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Especially since Michael Gross had just ended Family Ties, and he was the father, that figure that we always knew.
And
And then
the father figure was supposed to be a hippie.
hippie, exactly,
Oh yeah, he was like a huge like liberal on that show.
exactly.
Yeah.
And just like almost like a day after they finished filming Family Ties, the last episode, he comes and works on this film, and he's like a gun enthusiast. Did you remember their wall? All the guns that they had? Oh my God! Amazing.
The funny thing is that with this, of course, was before we really got to know a lot of these like survivalist militia people. And the thing is that I think a lot of those people today would look at that wall and say, "That's cute."
That's cute.
Where's your AK-47? Where's your rocket launcher?
Well, and how about how that scene is directed? Because we're introduced to those characters briefly, but we don't really get anything. We know they're into guns, and then the monster breaks through, and I think I don't know, Cole, what'd you think of how that scene was directed, of
That scene is
the
a total
joke?
MacGuffin. You think they're going down. That's
Yeah.
how monster movies are directed, man. I remember sitting there thinking, oh, here we go, two cool characters with potential, bite the dust way too early in the movie, like Paxton and Aliens. But no, man, they killed one of the monsters, and then the movie, like it does so many times, completely spins off into sort of an uplifting arc where you're having fun again, and instead of going down, 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 you just go up and up and up, and then they get the trailer, and then there's another whole act of the movie after that, and that was my feeling about that scene. It was a really welcome surprise, and it totally veers off into a really just energetic third act that doesn't rely so much on just the easy sort of glumness that comes from dread in a movie. It's easy to do dread. It's hard to do dread and maintain respect for your lovable characters, I guess, to where point where the audience is still invested and not just, oh, the monster's going to eat him eventually, so let's pay attention to Kevin Bacon.
Well,
Mm.
what I liked about it is something you don't get in a lot of these films. Even back then, you didn't get in a lot. It was a visual joke, but it wasn't. Look, here's the joke. It was. They didn't have to force it at all. It's just suddenly we get these guys backing up. We think the monster's gonna, and then we cut to face them, and we see this wall of guns behind us. But they set up those characters.
Yep.
They set them up so it was believable. It was still human because of the sheer volume of armor that they had, weapons they had there, but it was still believable with the characters. So the joke was at least a little bit grounded with your characters. It wasn't completely out of context for the exaggeration. It's just, wow, these guys are really into guns. And then he's
I
got
like
that
the
great
long
line.
extended tape they have. They show just everybody listening to the gunshot for like 10 or
Oh.
15 seconds.
Well,
That's
they
so
shooted
clever.
it.
You know,
They
in the
shoot
hands
that
of a
thing
lesson director.
forever.
That's just a great little bit, man.
And they shoot forever. I mean, it's not like they had their weapons and they were able to kill the thing right away. I mean, they go through most of their arsenal to shoot this thing.
The elephant cannon.
The elephant gun. But that scene really shows just how that's directed, especially because they're talking to him over the radio, and
Yeah.
because Val and them just figured out. I mean, that whole bam, 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 the way that section is really set up, like you said, the next set of, events that went on, yet they grounded it enough to where it didn't feel too ridiculous. It felt, the gun wall or anything. It wasn't that ridiculous because they set this up so well. And yeah, I mean, I really love that scene. And the story was actually written by the guy who wrote the Mask TV series, the cartoon series Mask. That's what I wanted to bring up, which makes me just love this movie even more. But the director, who's directed all these great scenes in this movie, this was actually his first feature, and he went on to do City Slickers and Speechless and Mighty Joe Young. I mean, but this was his really first feature, and I think he did really well for his first feature. I don't know about you guys, but what do you think about the Val and Earl characters, about making them just handymen? I thought that was an interesting way because that puts them kind of in the common man category, doesn't it, Glenn?
Oh, absolutely. I think that makes them it makes them very relatable as characters. And it's not just that they're like handymen, but it's the fact that they're common, but like common people, they have aspirations to be more than just that. I mean, they don't want to just be forever cleaning out whatever and picking up trash and scrapping for salvage. They've got ideas of something better and bigger out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they
don't
do.
seem to be very good at it either. It's just a handyman job. I think it takes Val about 15 strikes with that hammer to find the guys. And then they get covered in shit about 15 minutes later, which everybody I've ever talked to who has worked in that, I don't know if you want to call it a career, but anybody who has ever worked with raw sewage ends up getting covered at some point. So again, they definitely were, kind of not playing to an audience, but I think it was a clever decision to make them handymen, for sure. And maybe they were cut out for something better. I like the long, slow shot of them riding the horses into the sunrise or sunset, almost as if, oh, this is their destiny. Val and his buddy didn't get to be who they were until these monsters showed up. Then they turned into outlaws, I don't know. I see the movie as a Western. I really do. It's a great Western.
It's a modern Western monster flick.
Yeah.
And Scott, what would you say how the events played out? Because I liked how they didn't reveal right away what this monster actually looked like. What do you think about that? Compared to today, I think they might reveal it too soon. Scott?
I don't know. Can you hear me? Wait.
Yep, we got
Okay,
you.
sorry. Yeah, I don't know. If they would, they might keep it a secret before too long. But the difference is that they would it would. Oh gosh, I feel like it's a cliche at this point to beat this dead horse. But of course we know that today it would be CG.
Hmm.
It's easier. It's easier,
Yeah.
so it would be CG. But I don't know if they would necessarily keep it secret. I think they would. I think that because they were dealing with practical effects, it forced them to be more sparingly with how the things moved.
Hmm.
I mean, I would expect that they would show they would show things like flying out of it. They would show things doing acrobatics underground, which would not work. You know, no. Instead, we get you get those first shots of like those little you get the little first shots of like the little penis monsters that come out, and they're like, hey, they call them tentacles. Trust me. Thanks to thanks to thanks to Japan, we now have a completely new understanding of that word. And the and so they have the little penis monsters that come out and are groping the Ford. Ford. So
Wow, you're just taking this in a
yeah.
completely wrong direction. But yes, the
Yeah,
practical
but no,
effects.
the practical effects, and they show it slowly. And but then you see the big thing come out, right? You see the big thing just like come right out of the thing. They say there must be a million of them, and they say, "Boom! No, just one."
Just one.
That's good because I mean it gives you that thing of like, oh wow, this is what we're up against. Okay, and it kind of gradually it allowed you to figure things out when the characters figured them out. That was one of the
Right.
strengths of the film is that you didn't figure out anything before then. One of somebody I was mentioning that they didn't have a guy like doing like a big scientist character.
Right.
I think Mark, you or somebody said also reiterated that as they were trying to figure, you had all these characters trying to figure it out. They actually have a seismologist there who would
Yeah.
be the de facto science character in one of these movies. But at one point they ask her, like, well, what do you think's going on? And she just says, why do you keep asking me? It's like, I mean, you want to be like, yeah, her expertise is seismology. She can't
Yeah.
necessarily tell you about a underground worm creature that no one's figured out we've seen before.
Well, let's just
So I
let's
like that we were figuring out at the same time.
yeah. You're right. It is one of those where they don't really let the audience get ahead of the characters, and the characters yet don't come off like they know everything. It really, I think that really helps because in some of these movies like this, you always have the one expert, and again, it's another MacGuffin. It's like Cole said, there's so many of those where it played off of your expectations of from a normal monster film, but then it would turn it on its head and realize, oh, it's not that, or we're not going in that direction, or these characters aren't going to be just fodder. They do figure things out. What's the one line that she had? Well, let's just face it, these creatures are just unprecedented. Yeah, but where do they come from? Yeah,
Yeah.
but and it showed they had those moments that made you place where these people were as far as their understanding of what was going on, yet they still figured stuff out. And I really think that it is really strong characters, and those really help sell the monster. Because if you don't have the strong characters, I don't think you could sell the monster the way it is by itself.
Yeah.
I really. And you couldn't sell it either with a scientist giving a long exposition of why this is. Oh, these are from alien or space. We never get an origin.
No, they were trying to figure it out, and they can't figure, and they never come up with an answer.
That is a great thing. No, I remember reading in Fangoria way back in the day before internet, the only place to get information on movies like this, aside from Starlog and Gorezone and whatever. The writers talked about, I don't know if it was Underwood or S.S. Wilson, one of those guys, was talking about how they had an early treatment with like a scientist in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the first things they did, was just cut it out. Because they realized with him left the need to put in this origin story, which totally makes the movie less interesting, which Stephen King mentioned with Maximum Overdrive. The studio made him give a reason why the trucks suddenly came to life. And he was like, well, fuck. Okay, yes, I'll do it if that'll get the movie made. But in the end, what is supposed to clear things up, that just makes the movie way too cluttered and less interesting. Like Scott was saying, let's learn things with the characters. Who cares if we don't have all the answers? And here the emphasis a lot of time falls back on humor, which wouldn't work as well if you had a bunch of science in there too,
Yeah, it never goes too high above the audience, I think. Not saying that the audience is dumb, because you have to be smart, but yeah, you go along with, you're experiencing things with these characters. So
No, one of the things, another thing I do enjoy about the film is, like, look, I live in Florida. I get really angry with a lot of the people around me. But you know what? Here we have people that are very isolated in a, very, it's like a desert town. There's hardly any, like, you can't even in the next town it's a chore to get any communication going. They never even. It doesn't matter. The guy who owns the store, Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, the Gummers who are the survivalists. Yeah. Even though you have people who are eccentric, some of them might be annoying, some of them may have their quirks. They don't really treat any of these people as dumb hick yokels.
No.
Yeah. And that would be a real temptation for a lot of people. Like, I don't know, Bubba. What do you think these weird things are? It would be like if you'd basically be like looking at the Cletus the Slack-jawed yokel versus the aliens from another world.
Yeah.
And you don't get that here. They actually give them. I don't know if you'd necessarily call it dignity, but you'd certainly call it a sense of humanity, which is what really made the movie work.
Or respect as well.
Yeah.
And yet you had a group of person that each served a purpose within this little urban area. Well, urban is loosely perfection, but you had the doctor character. Glenn, what did you think? I like the fact that they had a rancher and a doctor, and they had people, each individuals that served a purpose, and I think that. Did you think that helped with selling this idea that this was an area of diversity? Versus all hicks, would you say that they gave a nice, diverse group of people in perfection? Glenn? Glenn? Oh, he can't hear us.
Oh.
Did we lose Glenn?
Oh, Glenn.
Are we there?
Yeah. We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Now I can hear you.
Oh,
Sound cut out for about 30
we
seconds.
lost you.
Okay.
The joys of Google Hangout. Anyway,
Yes.
The diverse group of people that they had in here, we had each individual kind of served a purpose in perfection in the town. Did that kind of add a little bit of the realism to this town rather than just feeling like it was a made-up, abandoned town, or a remote town? They kind of gave it some grounding, so they didn't just come up with this town perfection, like we're just going to throw these people out there.
Oh yeah, everyone seemed like an actual real person. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just and it wasn't the typical generic tropes that I see too often repeated in movies, where it's you've got the slutty girl and the jock guy and the stoner guy. It didn't go with really any of that, which was nice. You had what actually seemed like legitimately real people. Mm-hmm. You've got the single mom with the kid, and you do have the annoying teenager, but
Melvin.
But they handled him really well. They handled it well, especially with the whole scene with the gun.
With the gun.
The girl gives him the gun, and he's But yeah, everyone seems that they all you've got I forget his name in the movie, Walter. Mm-hmm. And he's got he serves his purpose, and you've got everyone is there, and it makes sense for them to be there.
Right.
They're not just wall coverings.
Well, and these folks aren't exactly as remote as you think they might go, they aren't that far from civilization, right, Paul?
That's correct. They always try to. They're always a few miles away from Bixby or something like
But
that.
we don't know how big Bixby is, do we? I mean, I don't know if we found out in the sequels. I mean, I remember like, okay,
Compared to
now
perfection, though, it had to be huge.
it had to be a lot bigger. But I mean, like, to give you an idea, like, I mean, because towns like Perfection totally do exist.
Yeah.
I never lived like in a desert climate or anything like that, but I do remember I lived in, and I know that we got people on this panel that are from like Wisconsin and whatever, and God knows where else I haven't been paying attention. But but like I lived in Minnesota for a while. I remember driving with my friend Seth once. He had to go. He says, "Hey, I got to go over up north and somewhere," and I was driving with him, and at one point he just says, "Okay, real quick, wave," and I waved out the window, not knowing what I was waving at. I said, "What was that?" He said, "What did you see?" I said, "I saw 2 houses and a bar." He said, "That was the town. That was the whole town." Like no, there's something else. There's like there's a ranch somewhere. No, that's it. It's 2 houses and a bar is the whole town, because you get these areas of the United States. We think of a lot of metropolitan areas, and even if you live kind of in this more suburban area, you think about, okay, we live in a suburban area. You still think of it as, how far away from Milwaukee are you? How far away from Tampa am I? But there are places that are hundreds and hundreds of miles from practically anywhere that would be note to people who have that metropolitan frame of mind. So Bixby might just be a destination because they have 2 markets. We don't
Right.
know, So
Yeah, but I mean, adding all that realism makes you buy into the monster, which I love.
oh yeah,
And they, I always love the scene where they're trying to come up with a name for the monster,
Right.
because in these films they always have a scientific name, but since they don't have their scientist here, they don't know what to name it, and so graboids, I think, is what they kind of
Gravel.
came up with the idea. But yeah, I mean, so many things that help ground this film. But there's also a lot of odes to previous horror films. One in particular, I think everybody will recognize. Paul, The Thing. You've seen John Carpenter's The Thing, right?
Yes, exactly.
Tell me that scene. Tell me that scene in front of Chang's is not reminiscent of The Thing with the boards flying up.
Yes, exactly. Oh, and well, again, it goes back to you didn't really know where the monster was from either, because they kept that all in the dark, and it made it much better and made it more like scary about it, because you didn't know, and it was great. I love that part.
Yeah, and there's just a little hints in there of you could tell they've watched monster films before when they were trying to do this. So, why don't we go down the list? Any particular favorite scene out of all their scenes? Start with you, Cole. What would you say probably your ultimate favorite scene out of the entire movie? What would it be?
Boy, my favorite scene?
Yeah,
That's tricky, man. A lot of that stuff on the boulder at the end while they're stranded is really great. I like a lot of that stuff. And a lot of the opening stuff, too, before the monsters even show up, with between Fred Ward and Kevin Bacon is great. Any number of those scenes, including the very first scene, I think is contender for best scene in the movie. The whole bit about stampedes, and then the more you watch the movie, as they rock, scissors, paper for breakfast, the more you realize, oh, Fred Ward is lying. Actually, it is his turn to cook breakfast, but he's so pissed off about the stampede joke, he's going to say, no, it's you. I mean, the movie has so many layers and good stuff in it. But, any scene with those two, because it is a love story. It's not a love story between Finn Carter and Kevin Bacon. It's a love story between Valentine and Fred Ward. I mean, these guys have such affection for each other. And I think moviegoers forget love story isn't always, sexual in nature. Sometimes, sometimes a love story is like Man on Fire with Dakota Fanning and Denzel. That's a love story, you know.
Mhm.
True Blue, and I think this is one. You know, the bromance that goes on there is
Well,
key.
the difference in their ages too is always interesting because usually in a film like this you have two people who are that close of friends as Val and Earl are, but they would normally be same age. But we've definitely got an age gap a little bit in here between the two. You know, at least they played out. Fred Ward's character is older than he's the wiser one of the two supposedly. Because, like you said, with that scene with the whose turn to make breakfast, he goes, "Oh well, I guess when I'm your age, I'll forget." And I mean that opening scene, you're right, sets up the relationship between Val and Earl, and you get that these guys have a history together. They get along where they chide each other, but none of it is disrespectful chiding at all. Kidding or whatnot. These two really do care for each other friendship wise,
Yeah,
and that really helps establish that and makes you invested in them, and you don't want to see something happen to one or the other
yeah, yeah.
because the other would be broken up about it. So yeah, good choice, Glenn. What about you? Any particular scene in general in Tremors that really stood out for you?
Man, I mean, I love the whole rec room scene
Mm-hmm.
with when it burst through the wall. That's probably my favorite scene in the movie. And I do like the bits with the pipe bombs and them trying to coax the things to reach up and grab them, and when the one finally spits the one back.
Yeah.
I like that one a lot. So it's the fact that it shows that while these things are monsters, they're not completely stupid.
No.
They learn, they adapt. So
Yeah, definitely. They're not dumb creatures by any means. And I always thought just the idea of them coming up from the ground was an interesting way to do that because you didn't have to show the monsters all the time.
yeah.
You just have to have a rumble and a movement of the camera. You kind of
Actually,
had.
I will change. I think my favorite scene
Mhm.
is when they find the car. The
Oh,
headlights.
the doctor's car.
That was
The
mine.
doctor's car. That's probably my favorite scene.
The doctor's car where it's playing Dropkick Me Jesus through the
Yes.
goalposts of life.
Where's the goddamn golden oldies coming from?
That's actually my favorite scene too because
Yeah.
we talk about how like fun the movie is and it is, but that was creepy as hell for me when I saw that. It's like you're out there in an open field and you're looking around like, where's the music coming from? I mean, we've all kind of had that moment of like, wait a minute, something here doesn't fit. And when they I think they put like a stick on the ground or something, and they poke the headlight of a car that is buried up, and it's not a this is no Kia. This is a station wagon. This is the car that thinks it's a house, and it is right there in there. And oh man, I remember when I saw that, I'm like, eee. It gave me the creeps.
That
Man.
shows you the dark humor that is throughout this film, though, because here you have a big car that was pulled underneath, and we haven't seen the monster completely yet, I think, at this point, or have we? No.
We've only seen
I
the
don't think
snake, the tongue.
We've
Yeah.
seen
We've seen penis
the
monster.
tongue
That's it.
so far. So we don't know quite what the monster is, but we know it's strong because it pulled this huge freaking car under the ground. And so we've got the tragic death of the doctor and his wife, and it's a dark scene, yet you have this song of Dropkick Me Jesus at a point where two of the characters have died. So you've got this black humor where you're like, that's creepy, but funny at the damn same time because it's playing that song. And they
Yeah.
do that mixture so well for this film that it just resonates throughout. That's what they have going throughout the film. Paul, what about you? Your favorite scene? I would say, if you had to pick out of any of them.
Definitely, I do have that. But can I mention something first about what Scott said about the penis monsters?
Yeah, sure.
This is on the trivia thing. They said that the original graboids used to have this kind of a carapace, like a hard thing, and it would retract when they got outside. But they took that back because it looked too much like foreskin on a. And so and the people were laughing on the set, so they didn't want to use that, and so they ended up coming up with the final design with the tentacles, the tongue things, because they thought that was cool. And it's funny that you kept calling it a penis monster because that was the original concept.
That's great. Because, well, you know, my mind is kind of in the sewer anyway, so I'm sure a lot of people didn't see that. So
my favorite scene actually appears at the beginning and it appears at the end, and I love it because it's a bookend to the film. It basically you got the Valentine character. He's over that ravine edge where he's kind of pissing off of there. The movie ends in that scene too, where Stumpy goes through there, and at the beginning of the film he mentions Stampede, and at the end of the film he mentions Stampede. And to me that was just perfect bookend, and that was my perfect scene because it appears twice.
Well, it brought the whole thing full circle.
Exactly, and it was just great.
It brought the whole film full circle, which you don't get out of, you know, scripts in general for a film like this, and I think that's what really makes Tremors on the whole just stand out. Is it's a smart script. It's a smart script. It doesn't, but it's not a complicated script. You can have a smart script and be complicated, and I think that's what really helps with this film is the fact that it doesn't bring everything to quite the cliche, and it's structured in a way, like you said, it brings it full circle. In the beginning, he did the Stampede, and suddenly he has that idea. Oh, wait, Stampede. you know? And suddenly everybody's in the audience is like,
Duh.
oh, yeah, duh, Stampede. You know? Well, and then they do a great thing at the end there of how to work everybody, your three principal characters, in on the whole dispatching of the creature, because he starts running and starts looking for his lighter, which he doesn't have after he starts running.
Oh my
so
gosh.
you get the girl in there, and so Val and they're all three are running, and it's just a great way to include them all. For me, I think my favorite scene is all the ones that you mentioned. I mean, the film as a whole, really, but I like the scene where they're discussing what to do after they dispatch the first graboid. I love that scene because it's something that doesn't happen too often in the monster films. Usually in the monster films, they've dispatched the bad guy, the monster, and they moved on. They left the body, they're going. Here we have two guys that immediately look at this going, we've got an opportunity here.
Wong's not going to cheat us this time.
And they're figuring out, like, well, we can't use the winch because it'll tear up.
Yeah, tear it up.
because they run it into the concrete wall, and you get the one "fuck you" in there, which was going to originally earn it a R rating according to the drop the F-bomb in there. But I just love how he did it. Cold my ass, he's dead. And then, once everything's completely safe, suddenly Kevin Bacon steps up and then he goes, fuck you!
Arguably the best fuck you in the history of cinema. Tied with Judd Nelson in The Breakfast Club, maybe, but it's...
Because he builds it up, too, because you see it working in Val's head. Oh, you're dead! For me, I like that scene because that right there just, shows these guys' mentality. They're not scientists or anything. They're just like, hey, we could turn this into a profit. Get a National Geographic. And meanwhile, she's sitting there going, guys, and I just loved how that whole scene played out because it wasn't what you did from a monster film. Usually, once the thing's dispatched, everybody leaves the body and they go back to report to town. And here we got these guys thinking, how could they turn this into a profit? What next scheme that they came up with? Which it sounds like they had a number of schemes in mind to try to raise money throughout. I think we'll wrap it up here. For me, I think Tremors is just a really great modern monster film that, you don't get too often anymore, even nowadays when they try to do monster films. And it just clicks. I think this entire formula, whatever they put together, whatever magic or whatnot, it just clicks, and you watch it and you have fun. Final thoughts, Cole, on Tremors. Is it kind of a classic monster film? Would you say?
Yeah, man. I like so much about it. It's hard for me to sum up my thoughts. It's hilarious and creepy, and I don't know. I can close up with a couple of fun facts. I think that they said the hardest part about making the movie was trying to separate their sandworms from the worms in Dune.
Oh yeah.
I remember we went through a huge struggle with that. And also, originally, it's not a huge deal, but in a way it kind of is. There was no kiss at the end. Originally, it was supposed to be kind of like a Big Trouble in Little China thing. And again, the studio stepped in for whatever idiotic reason and said no. Kevin Bacon has to kiss the girl. So they had to run in there and sort of revamp their entire ending to the movie, which I think would have been much better if Bacon and Fred Ward had just drove off or something and left Finn Carter standing there. I think that would have been terrific. But anyways, I love the movie. I just love it. I watch it 4 or 5 times a year, and I'll probably do so for another 40 years.
It definitely, I think, with those practical effects, helps make it a little more age than if it was completely a CGI graboid.
Yeah.
Glenn, what about you? The original Tremors, final thoughts?
This is probably one of my favorite monster movies ever.
Mm-hmm.
I probably go back and watch it at least once every other year, if not more often than that. I mean, when it first came out, I probably saw it at least a half dozen times within the first few months of it coming out. I saw it, and this is when it first came out on video. I saw it twice out at the theaters, and on video. Once it came on video, I just watched that thing all the time. I loved it. I even ran a pseudo D&D game with basically the graboids as the monsters of choice.
Nice.
It's one of my favorites from back in the day. I'd say from when I was a kid, but I mean, it came out when I was graduating high school. I was already 18, but still, it's that era. So, just one of my all-time favorites. If people haven't seen it, this is one, and I think it holds up. You're gonna watch it and you're not gonna say, oh, the effects are cheesy, or it doesn't. It looks like a movie that could have been made 2 weeks ago.
Well, not only that, but you get very little pop culture reference jokes in this film that were kind of common, which can help date a film. Here, you can watch this at any time and get the humor, which you don't always get, especially out of those late 80s, early 90s comedic things. They always kind of tried to throw maybe a pop culture reference in here. You don't have any of that. You just have characters that could be at any time. Like you said, it could be shot 2 weeks ago. This could be taking place now because it's in such a remote area. There are still areas like that.
Yep.
So definitely. Paul, your final thoughts?
My final thought is if you have the opportunity to buy the Blu-ray, there's an action pack which has all 4 movies in it. Or 3 movies.
4.
Yeah,
There's
4
There's
movies.
Part 5 comes out this year. But.
Oh, nice.
No, it's got Jamie Kennedy in it. I wasn't be too excited. But sorry, go ahead.
they redid the film quality of it, so it's basically revised kind of HD, and it's beautiful. And I would highly recommend that if you have an opportunity. So it's like you guys said, it looks like they could have made it like 2 weeks ago. Well, this version of it does look like they made it 2 weeks ago.
Awesome. And Scott, your final Tremors.
Yeah, I mean, I like this movie a lot. I actually like the ending. Cole was talking about that. I like the ending.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to run you down.
No, you're not rubbing it out. No, it's cool. No. I mean, I like it just because, part of the reason I liked it is part of the reason that I enjoy the movie is that the interplay between the characters. Like for instance, throughout the movie, the Fred Ward character, he's always kind of wanting Kevin Bacon to get his head out of his ass, and
Planned.
and when he starts to cozy up to the girl, even though he knows that she's not like some vacant bimbo in a magazine that he's had on his dashboard.
Tammy Lynn Baxter.
This girl's actually she's actually got a good head on her shoulders and everything like that. That he's like he kind of like it's kind of looking really smug throughout the movie, like yeah, okay, come on, I'm not gonna be here forever. Get this girl, and so. I like that ending, and I like the interplay between the characters. I like that they didn't talk down to the audience. I like that they didn't dumbify any of the characters. I liked that another thing Cole was talking about, that it did defy cliches that you didn't think characters that you didn't think were gonna made it through, like the Gummers. Okay, I always confuse him with his brother, so I cannot remember if it's Bobby Jacoby or Billy Jacoby, who's in the movie as Melvin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Melvin!
You
Can
see,
I ask a quick question of everybody?
It's
Mhm.
Bobby.
The guy who was sucked into the tire, I've never been able to figure this out. Who was he to Melvin? Was that Melvin's father?
oh, I doubt it.
No,
Yeah, was that an uncle?
I think it was his uncle. They never quite they never quite go into it, but I think it was his uncle.
Oh, okay.
With the way the relationship was, yeah, he wasn't the dad because they didn't quite interact with each other like they were dad, or even if he was a.
That would be a real flaw, you know.
Yeah, I think the movie was it was a little nicer to its audience than to do that. Than to have poor Melvin just traumatized forever. But but like yeah, I think that guy was. But like it's like between him and his brother, they were in like so many movies.
Yeah.
But, like, for instance, but like I didn't expect him to make it as soon as he does not go out to save one of the characters. He ducks in and hides in the outhouse. Cowardice is not repaid very well in these movies, and
Usually.
it probably shouldn't be. But and neither, conversely, is living by the sword, as Bert and Heather do. Everybody, they all make it. You never know. God, who's gonna make it through this dang movie? I like that it subverted cliches. I like that it was a throwback to old films while still being kind of smart. Again, I don't think it's as big of a classic as everybody else does, because I think our standards were lower. At least mine were when it came out, because we didn't get anything that was decent at the time. But having said that, I still enjoy the film a great deal, and I still watch it every few years. So
It's definitely worth revisiting for me. It's hard picking out, really any standout scenes alone, because the whole film just rolls along nicely too. It clips along nicely at about 90 plus minutes, which it's not an overall long movie either. It gets to the point. It doesn't need a long setup, and everything you guys said about it. I love this film. I have it memorized, and I still watch it because it's fun to watch. And I got to get the Blu-ray now that Paul mentioned it, because
man.
It's funny. It's another one of those that didn't do too well in the box office. It wasn't too well received, but when it got to the video on demand, not video on demand, on the special movie channels, HBO, 3 months later, and out on DVD, VHS, 6 months later, after the film was released, which was the standard length of time normally for films. Everybody watched it and loved it, and it was great cable fodder. It was one of those where if you're flipping through the channels and Tremors was on, you'd stop and you'd watch it, even if you'd seen it before, no matter where it was in the film, because you're like, oh, okay, Tremors is on, and the fact it's 25th anniversary, they do have number 5 coming out. And while the sequels were entertaining, we didn't talk about them tonight because I just wanted to focus on this first one because it is celebrating its anniversary literally like a week ago. It's January 19th is when it was released.
Oh, was this really a January movie? Boy, they did not have a lot of faith in this movie, did they?
They did not
But I
have a
went
lot of
to
faith
it on
in
my
this movie.
birthday. That's when it came out, so that makes sense. Wow, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it came out January 19th. That's kind of why I wanted to do this show as well, because it was really close to its anniversary, and I
Cool.
just remember being one of those films that stood out for me, that I remember and quote to this day occasionally. And it's got a great cast, and it's just fun. It is fun. It'll make you. It'll do things you weren't expecting out of a monster film, and in the end, you'll be glad that you did watch it. So, I want to thank you guys for going down this road with us to visit Tremors and take a look at it. It's one of my all-time favorite monster films as well, Glenn. Really is. It just stands out, and I love all aspects of this film. I really do. There's not a part where I go, wow, well, this just doesn't work for me. Every moment of it works. Cole, why don't you tell us really quick where we can find you at, sir?
Right, man. I'm on Facebook. It's the best way. Cole Meredith or Horror Roar or Shadows and Lovers Productions. All three pages I pretty much just rant about movies. So
Awesome.
show up and we'll talk movies, man. Thanks for having me, Mark. This is a
Oh,
lot of fun. It's after two
uh,
shifts, I was ready to talk movies. So thank you.
awesome. Well, glad you enjoyed it, Cole. And Mr. Bittner, go ahead, sir. Where can they find you?
You can find me on YouTube, Naked Hobo Productions, with the B-Movie Bunker. You can also find me on Facebook. Naked Hobo Productions is where you can find my movies, and then the B-Movie Bunker, where you can find my movie reviews. And also follow me on Twitter at Naked Hobo.
Awesome. And Paul?
On People Magazine and National Geographic.
National.
Nice.
ForsakenFilmReviews.wordpress.com.
And Scott?
You can catch me at movieocrity.com. It's where I post all the podcasts, all my writing, the columns that I kind of try to churn out weekly or whenever I feel like them and stuff. Also, you'll see all the new episodes of Movieocrity, the web series there. If you want to catch up on them, check them up on Vimeo and YouTube. I am working on Movieocrity Season 3 right now. It might even be out by the time this episode airs. I'm not sure. So,
Awesome.
yeah, it's exciting times in the world of Scotty. So hopefully you'll check it.
Awesome. Well, that's great stuff, gentlemen. And for myself, specialmarkproductions.com is where you can go, where you can find this episode, as well as all the archived episodes that we have made as podcasts for the Spoiler Room, as well as our Google Hangouts. We also have my Final Cut episodes and the stuff I do for We Live Film there. And there is a forum. Please go there. Sign up into the forum. It doesn't hurt anything, and we'd love to hear your feedback about our episodes or past episodes, or what you might like to see next on the Spoiler Room. Please go to specialmarkproductions.com, to the forum link at the top, and give your opinion, views. Would love to hear back from you all. And we are on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. You can follow me at Movie Maniac 3D on Twitter, and that's where I post all our updates of when the next episode will be for the Spoiler Room, etc. Yeah, that's about it, folks. So I hope you enjoyed this little flashback as we talked about Tremors, celebrating its 25th anniversary. And since nearly all of us have seen it in the theater, it gives you an idea of us. But no matter what age, this is definitely, Tremors is a film that no matter what age you are, I think, well, it's PG-13 and older, but I think you'll really enjoy it regardless. It's great humor for there's great humor in here for everybody. Everyone will find something to enjoy, and it's just a whole lot of fun. So thank you again for listening to The Spoiler Room, because remember, in The Spoiler Room, while the conversation is fresh, the movies are definitely spoiled.